figure we can dive in here.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll also post this recording of everything afterwards.
Perfect.
So just
Great.
thank you everyone for joining us, specifically to our panelists. I think there's a huge amount of, digital marketing savvy across the board on the panel right now. So I'm really excited everyone was able to join. And to start off, I figured, we could just kind of walk through and kind of have everyone introduce themselves. I'll start. My name is Whit Blodgett, work for Patch, head of marketing there, and we do tons of digital marketing. And then, whoever else, I guess, Alan, you can start off.
Yeah, I'm Alan. I guess, so for those of you who don't know me, which I'm not sure how many there are from the Odies on Facebook advert that we're fired this up on that don't know me, but I'm a practicing optometrist in a grunt optometrist like you likely in the Maryland suburbs of Washington, D.C., a large medical model practice, and I'm the founder of Odies on Facebook. All right, Whit, you want to go?
I guess, Mike, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, Mike Neal, practicing optometrist, fellow grunt, and practicing in northeastern Pennsylvania.
Great, awesome. Justin?
I guess we're all grunts. I'm a grunt, and I actually started my practice in 2008 and didn't have much of a marketing budget. So we put to use the free social media, digital media tools that were available to us at the time. And it was so successful, we've continued ever since building our presence online. And we really attribute our growth, our dramatic growth, much due in part to building that digital footprint.
Awesome.
Great. And then Kevin?
So my name is Kevin. I am the president and founder of a digital marketing agency purely for the eye care industry called Marketing for ECPs. Kind of handle everything from web design to paid search to SEO and everything in between. So glad to be here.
Great. And then we have Max on the line, who works with me at Patch. Max, you there?
Yes, I am. Hello, everybody. Thanks for having me. Yep, account executive working with the sales team over at Patch.
Great. All right, so diving forward. To start, generating demand for your practice, basically what we're going to try to cover in this webinar is what is digital marketing, what it can do for your practice, and kind of ask the question, we have people saying, we're working with insurance networks to drive traffic to our practices, but what would happen and what would the world of optometry look like if you didn't have to rely on these systems that required you to restrict fees, utilize labs that they deemed worthy, and harass you with chargebacks. So that's kind of the general gist, and the questions that we've put together here. It's kind of just going to be round robin, everyone sharing their experience with digital marketing, with insurance networks, with how they got started in digital marketing. So we hope that will be a good starter place for you and starting a digital marketing strategy at your company. So what is digital marketing? It's promotion of products and brands via internet, one or more forms of electronic media. And I guess, what you want to think about is how you buy things today. Much like, your patients, they're experiencing and making buying decisions similar to you. So, these are just a few examples, but you have Instagram, where you have sponsored posts. This is one from Ben & Jerry's. Another is through, utility apps like Waze. It'll suggest you go to Shell. Shell pays for the digital marketing to have that pop up. With entertainment, so Spotify or SoundCloud, or iTunes even, people are paying to have their ads pop up. So in this case, you have Squarespace popping up. And then even with search engines like Google, you have, in this case, Hotel Tonight, you know, is on the far right here, is paying to have this space and have their company marketed to you. Even though you're typing in hotels in San Francisco, the first one that pops up is a digital marketing place that was paid for. So, you know, these are just some general examples to give you a sense of how it's working. And you'll note that most of this is mobile, and that's the trend that we've seen, is that everyone's kind of shifting towards mobile, and people are making buying decisions 55, 60% of the time on their mobile phones. So you have to think about that in your digital marketing strategy. But, you know, that's something that Kevin will dive into a little bit later. So, you know, would patients respond to digital ads? You know, 80 million searches for vision care in the US per month. The top search is where to get my eye exams. And then, you know, as I said earlier, 56% of all vision related searches are on mobile device. So, you know, that's kind of the just overview of the situation we're looking at. And now, you know, I'd like to open it up to the panelists and have them, you know, share their experience through these questions. So I'm not sure who would like to start off here. But I guess in these cases, Kevin, it might make sense for you to take it away from here.
Sure. So what I'll do is I'll dive into the two real ways that digital marketing can work for a practice. So the first one is when your patients are out of market. So these are people that are not currently searching for your products, services, or brands. They may be checking their email. They may be looking at the weather, looking on YouTube at music videos, and you can place advertisements in front of them while they are living their life regularly. So as Whit showed, there's a few examples. Spotify could be one where you're listening to music and an ad pops up. So this is more advertising, and it's more traditional, very similar to a TV ad or a billboard ad that you would drive by, but you can place them digitally. So one way that it can work is by creating ads that talk about booking an eye exam maybe annually, or you could be pushing a particular brand that you carry, or a new medical niche service that you offer. And you can target geographically around your practice, you know, 3, 5, 10 miles, whatever kind of works for you. And it works on a two basis, one on a cost per impression. So you determine how much you're willing to spend when ads, or how many times your ads are served to potential patients, or you can pay for performance, and you can determine how much you're willing to pay when somebody actually goes and clicks on an ad. And we call that pay-per-click. So that's targeting people that are out of the market. People that are in the market are, you know, moms, dads, and you know, individual people that currently do need an eye exam. They are looking for an optometrist, or they're looking for sunglasses or frames or lenses, and they will go on to a search engine like Google, Bing, and they will type in things like, where can I get my eye exam? Who provides the top eye exams, or even things like, how much does an eye exam cost? So now that you know that they're in the buying cycle and in the funnel, that's where you can place an ad at the top of the search engine. This is called Google AdWords as an example. And you determine how much you're willing to pay when somebody who is in your geographic area searching for your services, products, and brands actually clicks on an ad, goes to your website, and learns more about you. So that's the two ways that digital marketing can absolutely work and benefit your practice.
Great. Awesome. Thank you. And so I guess, you know, kind of basing off that, you know, a lot of people point to the fact that, you know, past 30 years, they've been fine without digital marketing. So, you know, maybe if you could comment on just kind of the changing purchasing journey.
Yeah, you bet. So this is, to me, this is just the consumers have changed. And I will use the word consumer instead of patient on purpose here, because consumers have choice. And so we know that the consumer behavior has changed. Whit alluded to, and we posted the stat, that 56% of traffic to eye care sites right now are coming from mobile. So it used to be word of mouth was number one, and location obviously matters. People would just kind of drive around, they know their neighborhood, they would go to someone close by. But now people are looking for particular services. Their expectations have changed in terms of customer service. They're looking for particular unique lines of frames. And so they are researching now more now than they ever have before. We're lazy in general. We've continually gotten lazier, and we sitting on a couch or in a waiting room or waiting for our kids to finish swimming lessons. We pull out our cell phones and we do work, and we are looking to book an eye exam. We're looking who carries, Tom Ford frames as an example, and in an area around me. And because you're using your phone, you can now geographically search for who is around me that carries these products, services, and brands. And so just the entire mentality of consumers and patients has changed, and it's changing quickly. And if we're not staying ahead of it, we're noticing a lot of practices and businesses in general, not just in this industry, but in general, are struggling to keep up with the mass change that's happening. And so it's more important today than ever, and it's going to be more important tomorrow than it is today to understand how your patients and consumers are finding your business.
Kevin, I always like to say it's changed from word of mouth to word of mouse.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Very funny.
Can I add something to that as well?
Yeah, absolutely.
So I always explain to people also that the word of mouth is a great way to get patients. And when you get someone through word of mouth, often they can be really solid patients because of the social proof that comes along with somebody who refers somebody to you. They come in already trusting you if a friend referred them. The friends of friends connection that you get through social media adds value to that as well. So what you really want to achieve there is to make that connection as well. It's another strategy to social media marketing, is to make sure you're more likely to go with the recommendation of a friend than someone you don't know. And in the traditional word of mouth way of referring, where maybe somebody at work sits up and looks over their cubicle at their next door neighbor and says, "Hey, I got a great eye doctor." Well, there's still referrals going on at work, like at the water cooler, but not as much as that's kind of a trickle compared to the flood of people that you get when you expose yourself online and make yourself known. So I've been doing a marketing study in my practice for a couple of years, and I've looked at I've put the columns of how people were referred to us, and I've broken it down into tremendous detail, but the two largest columns have always been word of mouth and through search engines. And just about 8 months ago, the word of mouth had been maybe 10% larger than the people who found us online. And just about 8 months ago, we had what I call similar to the mobile moment, the Mo moment. We had a moment where the graph shifted, and now more people find us through our online presence than through word of mouth. So you can run a great practice for 30 years with a trickle of people and a slow, steady 1 to 5% growth. But if you want to grow in the double digits like Justin and I do, and Michael maybe, I don't know because we haven't talked about that, but that you really have to open that faucet and get yourself exposed through these different strategies that Kevin described.
Definitely. Great. Thank you, Alan. That's super helpful. I guess, the next question, I kind of get into this later. So maybe in the interest of time, we might skip this one because we cover it later. So looking forward, I think, hearing about this stuff and, it can be a little intimidating, especially if you've run your practice for 30 years and, haven't made changes. And, I feel that hearing cases and results of other ODs is a great way to, wrap your head around what this can do for your practice. And we promise you it's not very hard to do. There's a lot of resources out there to do this yourself. And, so diving right in, I'd love to hear from the OD panelists and, hear about your practice before and after you implemented digital marketing strategy. Alan, you kind of just dove into that a little bit. Hearing about the switch from word of mouth to search engines. So maybe, Mike or Justin, if you guys want to jump in here and kind of share, what your practice looked like before, what it looks like today, and, what the return on investment has been, right? Because it's all about dollars and cents. And,
Sure. I can jump in and give you some comments on this one. We opened cold in 2008. So to open cold at any time, it's extremely tough. But at the very start of the biggest recession that this country's ever experienced, probably wasn't an ideal time. But what we did have going for us is we knew how to build an online presence, and we knew how to create an online presence. And at the time when the social media platforms were emerging, the playing field was a bit more level as far as the private guys like us and large corporations, which it's definitely changed. But we got out ahead of it, and we've continued to kind of lead the way. So we know that people are online searching and researching for eye care providers. So it's a factor of kind of, you're in the neighborhood, you may have gotten a word of mouth referral, but we actually want to do some research on this practice. One of the best things to do research on is the social media presence. You can get a real flavor for the office culture, the care that's provided, the services that's provided, just by viewing social media posts of the business. So when people are looking for a new eye care provider and they want the right match and the right fit, they're going to be able to get a whole lot of that just from our social media presence. The other thing that we were very strong on is we started to make sure that our Google presence was up to date. And both Facebook and Google have had dramatic changes in recent years. So if somebody was dabbling in social media and they were working with, Google places in the past, or if they were dabbling with Facebook in the past, there really has been a lot of changes they need to stay up on. Some of those changes have had tremendous impact. But he's talking about Facebook Zero now, meaning the organic reach is dead, and it's going to be a true pay-to-play situation. So I think that there's lots of resources out there, but it's always beneficial to help have the hand of a professional guide us along with that effort. As far as return on investment, if I told you there's a free platform that's going to allow you to get in touch with hundreds of your patients and have hundreds of your potential patients, and the platform itself is free, the return on investment's huge because it's 100% return on your investment is zero. The pay-to-play investments, such as your Google AdWords or your Facebook ads or your Instagram ads, or anytime you're spending on a sponsored post or boosting a post, that is a little bit harder to see because there is oftentimes not a direct connection on that investment. However, if you're looking just based on the amount of exposure or brand awareness, or if you take this time to set it up so it's linked to your online scheduler and the click is there to the scheduling button, you can get a little bit better gauge on the return on investment. But basically, it's a huge return on investment, and it's going to be one of those things that's really going to help build the practice and get those new patients in. I think Alan made an excellent point. He's like, you can grow for the last 30 years because you have such a substantial patient base, and you will see those patients come back, and you will get those regular word of mouths. But it's that new patient or the potential patient that's online searching, and then that's where you have to have a real strong digital marketing strategy implemented.
Great. Awesome. Mike, do you want to jump in as well?
Yeah, you bet. We're a customer of Kevin's firm, and we've been around for about 16 years. What I would find kind of interesting is operating a practice without digital marketing. It's a little bit on the scary side. We have had digital marketing early on. I don't remember exactly when we started. Kevin might be able to expand on that, but it's just part of our practice DNA at this point. And as Justin said, and Alan said as well, extremely effective for us. So we're in a rural area, and reaching people is a real challenge. Using the internet to leverage that, I just can't imagine doing it without it.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'd like to add something to that, Mike, if you're done. There are patients out there who are looking not to go commercial. There are patients out there who want to go independent. And at the very least, your reason for having a presence online is so they can find you. If you're not out there, they're not going to find you. I call those patients independent loyalists. One of the reasons that I have a relationship with Patch is because in a different way, they help drive, increase the amount of patients who are not covered by insurance. And then there's a whole other group out there who are looking for the independence in your area. So if you can steer your marketing in the kind of direction or design
Uh-oh.
Oh, it's cut out. Or is everyone else still connected?
Yeah, I'm here.
I can finish Alan's thought on that. So he was saying is that the patients who are seeking independent care are doing their research online, and your marketing messages, your digital marketing messages, need to go out and reach them. So they're looking, but we can actively create campaigns that go out and almost like a heat-seeking missile find those patients for you. And I think that's the real true beauty of digital marketing is that, yeah, I can do it passively, but it can also go out and with hyper-targeting ads, it can actually find those patients who are looking for independent eye care providers. Alan, is that what you were about to say?
I only got the last few seconds. I got kicked out for some reason, but
we were talking about the ability for digital marketing to go out and directly target those ideal patients who are seeking independent care.
Yeah, it's not just the number of new people you can get in, which is hugely important. Most optometrists are lacking in their growth in new business, but the type of business, if you customize your marketing to draw the people who really want to find what I call the independent loyalist practices, we'll call them independent loyalist patients, then digital marketing is the only way that you can hang a shingle out there so they're able to find you. If you're not, they're not going to find you, and you'll be leaving a lot of money on the table.
Yeah, absolutely. Great. All right. Well, thank you guys. That's, adds a lot of color. So now this kind of brings me to this next point, and, it certainly is something that is, there's a lot of debate around, but basically, Patch, we facilitate out-of-network claim submission and benefits checking. And, one of the things we say is when we ask someone about whether they'd go out-of-network, their concern's always about getting butts and seats. They're like, oh, without my insurance network, like no one would come to my practice. It would be game over. But with digital marketing, it kind of opens up the possibility of being out of network with certain carriers while still bringing in, patients. And so, just honing in on this out of network, what's the word? I guess out of network phenomenon, I think it'd be interesting to just kind of hear and, learn a little bit more about, how out of network patients compare to in-network patients. And Alan, I know you and I kind of talked about this a little bit before. So maybe if you want to dive in here.
Yeah, sure. Well, you have to look at your vision plans, and vision plans really should never be called vision insurance, by the way. They should always be referred to as plans, because they're discount plans. And what are they set up as? Well, they're set up as a marketing tool for you. They're really not doing anything for you other than exposing you to a big network of people to drive people into your business. And to do that, what you agree to is taking a discount in exchange. So you're actually reducing your fees, you're reducing your gross and your net income by accepting a vision plan. So that in and of itself is something you give up. Can you go back to the last? Yeah, there you go. So that per patient revenue is much less, obviously, for those patients, 30 to 40% or more in a lot of cases, than it would be if you were not to take those vision plans or go out of network.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Great. Justin or Mike, do you guys, I'm not sure if you guys take out-of-network patients or, what the revenue is compared for you.
So I think that you can ask anybody all across the boards in the industry. If somebody is utilizing a vision plan, it's discounting your services and product. So your per patient revenue is always going to be less anytime you're involving a discount, right? So the out-of-network costs, the out-of-network patient, if somebody who's coming in and saying, I'm going to be paying you cash, I'll file an out-of-network claim, they're going to be substantially higher source of revenue generated for you.
Awesome. Great.
Can I add one more thing to that before you move on, Whit?
Sure, go ahead.
Another thing that always really irks me about the optometrists I talk to about marketing is they'll talk about marketing in terms of it being an expense when it really is an investment. Yet they don't see the 40% or 30% discount that they give to these insurance plans as a marketing expense, because that's what it is. You're giving up 30 to 40% of your revenue to have an insurance plan send more patients into your office. Yet they don't want to spend what you need to spend to have a really solid digital marketing campaign. It makes absolutely no sense to me.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the things we can do for our colleagues out there today is explain to them really that you're spending 30 to 40% of what your exam fee is to have an insurance do the marketing for you, when you could take out a network patients and invest your time and money into a product like 4ECPs or something that really, really adds value by driving new patients in. And so you need to really look at the whole big picture of where your expenses are, what your investments are. And if you put it together just right, you can get a real slew of out-network patients and higher cash-paying patients, independent loyalists being driven into your practice.
Alan, that's a good point. Can I ask you, so you said 30 to 40% for insurance, but do you have a target percentage for digital marketing? Like when you run a campaign or you invest in that, are you also tracking those numbers to know what the difference is between the insurance versus digital marketing?
Well, I can't say I compare my insurance to my digital marketing, but for me, I could, my marketing, the people who help me with it, I make sure that they know what they're doing. I make sure that it's sophisticated, and I keep an eye on it. I always look at it as an investment. So I expect to get a return on that. It doesn't matter for me what I put into marketing, because if it's a 1x return, that's a wash for me. But I expect it to be a 3 to 5 or greater return. So most people will say to me, well, oh, that website, that costs too much. I'm like, no, it's not an expense. It's an investment. And if it's good, it's going to pay itself back in spades. So I don't know if that answers your question, but I haven't really done that exact comparison.
Makes a lot of sense, Alan. I think I recently read that optometrists across the board spend something like 2% of their, a year of their revenue on marketing, which I was shocked by, because you look at any other industry, service industries, like it is much higher. So
exactly.
Yeah, like my point there was, if you're paying 30% as a marketing expense to get that new patient in the door, and I've never actually thought of it that way. It's a great perspective to put it that way. When you're looking at alternatives, and that's kind of what this whole webinar is about, if you can get a new patient in for, let's start at 20%, 15%, 10% of that revenue, all of a sudden that's just bottom line profit, right? So that's why if you look at the differences between 30 to 40% of your eye exam goes there as a discount, if you can get that in through digital marketing at 5%, 10%, or what have you, then that's where you can start building up a more profitable practice, right?
Exactly. The numbers are so huge, I don't even need to think. It's a no-brainer. I don't even have to sit and calculate it. I know that. So if my exam fee is $150 and I'm discounting it 40%, right? I'm spending $45 maybe for just that one patient to get them in my office. I mean, if you multiply that by the patients you drive in, the numbers are staggering, and what we actually pay to market is so much smaller than that. Maybe because we're taking those discounts, I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I guess that, I feel like you've already covered my next question pretty extensively. What are the downsides to insurance networks versus digital marketing? I feel like you've kind of already.
I would like to add something to that we didn't cover, and that's the fact that the more you depend on insurance networks, the less independent you are. Mm-hmm. The more of my practice that I build up based on an IMED or a VSP or a Aetna for that instance is going to make me more of an employee of them. And if I want to get out, it's going to sting. And that happened to me in the mid 90s. I had built up my practice up on several plans. One of them was Aetna, and Aetna came to me. 12% of my whole practice was Aetna, and they dropped me, not because of anything I did, just because they were dropping providers in the area. And overnight, I lost 12% of my practice. And it was from that point on where I said, I'm never going to be totally dependent on any one plan. And so that's a huge downside to going the insurance network as your marketing tool, is that you are no longer as independent as you think.
Yeah, and it also removes, I get asked a lot about branding versus commodity. And when you're an insurance network, you're on a list, it becomes a lot more of a commodity-based business, as opposed to when you do digital marketing, you're telling your story. and why someone should come in and see you. So you're actually building equity in your brand that far extends and kind of deleverages what Alan just said of having to rely on insurance networks to kind of carry your revenue.
Wow. Interesting. Great. So I guess this is a good time to dive forward into, getting started. And Kevin, maybe this is something you can kind of lead off for us. So this is kind of the questions I laid out, but feel free to, give suggestions wherever you see fit.
Sure. So I'll take the first stab here. So the first question in the headline: would patients respond to digital ads? So the answer here is yes. And the reason we know that is that the analytics, the numbers, they show us that it tells you how many times your ads are served or shown. It tells you how many people click on them. And then there are ways to implement what we call conversion tracking, which is how many of those patients that saw your ad, clicked your ad, actually took the next step and either booked an online appointment or called you to book an appointment. So the numbers are there in overwhelming fashion to justify that people are responding to digital ads, of course. Recommendation to get started. The first thing is just get started. That's the first thing I'll say. It's just try it. And I will say that having a website is not a digital strategy. A website is like a business card, but you still have to put that business card in the hands of the right people. And that's where digital marketing comes from. So your website is like a brochure. It is like a business card. And the advertising avenues like search engine optimization and Instagram and Facebook and Google ads are all the avenues of actually bringing and pathways out to go and finding new patients. So, that's absolutely a tip. What sort of factors should I consider? Number one is understanding your numbers in your business, understanding what revenue you make in different services and knowing what a new patient is worth to you, both from a cash flow perspective of their first visit, but also lifetime value, and understanding how much that you should be willing to invest to actually acquire that patient. That is things that you should consider, because when you invest money, and maybe it's for every $100 or $500 or $1,000, whatever it is, you should have an expectation of results. And why digital marketing is effective is that you can measure those results. So you can see if your $1,000 is generating the return that you expected. And so understanding your business and understanding the numbers really helps. And then good resources. Here's the thing. I am self-taught in terms of digital marketing, and so are my entire team. So everybody on this phone call can learn themselves. It does take time, but the resources are out there. Google has a great academy online. So does Instagram, Facebook, but you can also go to e-learning sites like Udemy, Lynda, things like that, and just type in how to start a digital marketing strategy, how to run a Facebook campaign, how to even claim a Google My Business account, and they will walk you through those things. So there's a ton of good, inexpensive resources to learn from. It just takes time.
Great, thank you. I guess, so Mike or Justin or Alan, give us the sense from the OD's perspective.
Hear from Mike. Where is he on there? There you are.
Yeah. Justin, you want to go first?
Sure, absolutely. To Kevin's point, just jumping in and getting some experience with it is ultimately a great first step. So the outlay, the financial outlay at that entry level, the beginner level, is going to be very minimal. It's not as expensive as you would think to get your feet wet or dip your toes in, for example, Facebook ads. But it's your creativity, it's your ability to use insights and see how those ads are performing, and then tweak them and modify them. And it does take time, and it does take your ability to absorb some knowledge that you are reading from some of the sources he mentioned. But you may find that it's fun and you like doing it, and that'll accelerate your kind of learning curve with it. But number one step is just get out there and try it. I recommend starting with the platform you're already familiar with. So if you're on ODs on Facebook all day in between patients anyways, you might as well go out and say, hey, I'm going to create a Facebook ad for my Facebook page, your business page, and just give that a shot and give that a try first too. I think you're going to be surprised how helpful some of the platforms are. And also keep in mind that there's crossover between certain platforms. So if you're generating Facebook ads, now that you have the ability to also have those ads pop up in your Instagram feed, because Instagram is owned by Facebook. Similarly, Google has its network where you can end up on a YouTube as well too. So there's crossover between different platforms, and just get out there and try it. I think Kevin's advice was great.
The thing that I would kind of suggest everybody look at is the opportunity cost of not doing this. If you're, if you're concerned about spending some money and maybe getting a return, maybe not getting a return, you bring in the professionals to help with that. And if you end up doing that, imagine you're spending, a certain amount of money. Well, what happens if you don't spend that? What are you losing? What opportunity are you not realizing with your practice growth? That's something that got us to take action on this a little earlier than perhaps we were going to otherwise.
So that's about it for this. I don't know if you guys have anything else to add, but what I thought we could do is open it up to questions from all the attendees. For all those listening, if you would like to ask your question, you can type into those chat boxes, and we can start answering them. Looks like Adam James has asked a question. I'm not sure if the panelists can see this, but it says, do you guys feel it's still early to expect 3 to 5 times ROI from digital marketing spend via social media search channels previously mentioned? AKA, is digital marketing still a nascent strategy for optometrist practices, or laggards actually late to the game? Can you guys see that?
Yeah, I got it. It's Alan here. I can start on that one. So there's definitely no early or late. I mean, it's cyclical. There's going to be practices opening up from now for the next umpteen years, and they're going to need to get in that game and get out there. The people that you want to be ahead of are the people that might compete with you regionally, and getting ahead of them is important, because aside from all the cues that Google uses to elevate you in search, one of them is how long you've been at it. And if you've been at it more than the practice down the road, well, ka-ching, if you keep it up, if it's a solid effort, if you have a really well-designed website with great coding and an SEO, then you'll have a temporal advantage on them for as long as you keep it up. So start. It's never too late to start. The 3 to 5x ROI from digital marketing is no different than any marketing that was done well. I wouldn't want anything less than a 3x ROI on any kind of marketing I'm doing. And because your audience is online, it could be even higher if you do it well. So never hesitate, get into it and go all out. But the one thing I will say is stick with it, be consistent with your marketing, and that way you'll get ahead of the competition.
I think that's an excellent point. But I for people that haven't gotten into this yet, I don't want them to ever feel like it's too late or they're going to be at a disadvantage. With properly constructed social media ads, you can target those potential customers with such specificity. It doesn't matter some of the things that Alan mentioned, like how long your website's been there. They're going to be exposed to your marketing messages, and then they're going to hopefully have that call to action where they're booking an appointment or picking up the phone for that. So don't feel like if you haven't done it yet, you're at a disadvantage. I think that with properly crafted social media messages and an advertising platform, you're going to be able to hit the targets you want and bring them into the practice.
Yeah, to expand a little bit on that, why I love digital marketing is that it is a math equation. So as long as you're doing it effectively, you're never too late. So an example would be, there's a cost to acquire somebody to click an ad and come to your website. There's also a conversion rate of that website from the potential patient to actually taking the next step and calling you. So why I said earlier to know your numbers is, if it costs, let's say $5 in order to have somebody click an ad and come to your website through a Google search in a competitive area, and your website converts at 10%, then you can see very quickly it's about a $50 cost per lead to have that person call you. If you run a good practice and you have scheduling, it's open and you're able to close, you can acquire a patient, you know, at that $50 to $75 range just on those numbers. Everyone's different, but you can see then as digital marketing gets better, you can take a $5 cost per click and lower it to $3 or $2, and you can make your website more effective by proper messaging and better imagery and just speaking to your patients and solving their problems. And you can raise a conversion rate up, and so you can actually lower your cost per patient acquisition by understanding your numbers and understanding your digital marketing numbers. And it doesn't matter when you enter it; it's just a math equation. So you're able to be really effective by analyzing the data and just kind of making steps to improve it.
Great. Awesome. Thank you, Kevin. Yeah, if anyone has any other questions, feel free to ask them. You know, we'll stay on for a minute or two here. But yeah, just while we're waiting on that. Oh, looks like we got one. Okay, so Anonymous asked, should I learn this myself or outsource it to an independent digital marketing consultant or agency? From what I've heard, it takes a little while to learn how to properly execute and see ROI.
I can answer that pretty quickly. It depends on what your time's worth, and I think it's kind of a leading question. Everybody involved in this chat has time that's worth a substantial amount of money per hour, so it's great to have a good background to gather that information so you know what to look for and such. But my suggestion would be to consider your time value versus the person you're hiring. That's what we do in our office every day for all of us.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a really good point, Mike.
I think, and speaking as an agency owner here, I think that there should be a level of education and responsibility that you do take in any investment you make. So if you have a financial advisor and you're going to blindly hand the money without asking any questions, you know, you may end up with results you don't like. So in this case, I do believe as a business owner and you're going to spend money investing in anything, that you should know what you're investing in and really understand it. So start by learning, you know, like go into those tutorials, understand how Facebook works, understand the targeting features, understand how Google search works. Really know the questions to ask about search engine optimization and understanding who you want to work with, and try it yourself. Understand, because what I can tell you is that somebody like Dr. Neil here, when you understand with context, you understand the platforms you're trying to swim in, it makes our conversation a lot better, because
Sure.
we can actually, instead of educating, we can talk about solutions. And so I think that everyone should learn this if you're going to invest in it. And to Dr. Neil's point, if you get to a point where you need, you know, time back in to grow your business in other ways, that's when you look to outsource it to a professional.
Yeah, absolutely. Also a great point. Just keeping an eye on time here. I want to keep hitting these questions. Renee Adams asks, what's the best way to convert from revenue stealing vision plans to serving out-of-network patients and begin digital marketing? Would you keep the vision plans until you have strong self-pay patient following? I have a Facebook page, but no website currently. I don't know how to start. So maybe, you know, hear from one of the ODs on this.
Yeah, I'll start with that one. So Renee, great question. I think it goes without saying that we can't just drop all our vision plans and expect to wake up and have a thriving practice the next day. You need a strategy to drop vision plans, and there's a lot of different strategies that you can take. For us, we looked at our swath of vision plans a few years back, and my office manager and I agreed that we would find the least profitable vision plans, and every December 31st before the new year, we would drop one per year. So we would slowly wean our dependents off of those. That leaves us with a core group of vision plans that we either weren't able to get rid of right away or didn't want to. And in the meantime, we had extra chair time because those low-paying patients were not in our chair, and we put that money into marketing and trying to drive a higher paying patient. And it's a long process, and that was our strategy. I strongly advise connecting with some of the practice management experts in our industry to come up with a strategy to drop vision plans and go out and network and consider products like Patch, which can help you do that without having that consultant, and see how it goes. And as it moves forward, you may find yourself in a position where you can slowly and easily, reduce those big discount plans from your practice.
I want to follow up on that last part of the question. Is I have a Facebook page, but I don't have a website yet, and I don't know where to start. In the past, I didn't realize the value of a high search engine optimized and designed professional website. This isn't something that I think you're going to want to go out and, as an amateur, create your own website. I think if you work with a professional, they're going to optimize your website, so it's going to have a big impact on how you're being found and people are looking for eye care providers. So a professional website, you reach out to an agency like Kevin and you tell them, look, I don't have anything, where do we start, what packages do you have available, and you get something professionally done.
Yeah.
I wanted to jump in right here really quick and kind of add to Alan's point of looking at plans. This is a question that I come across every single day. How do I start looking at which plans if I'm considering going out of network for the first time? And something I always advise to look at is a strategy that Alan kind of hinted at, is looking at the lowest volume plans, the plans that aren't producing a lot of revenue for the practice, and to look very, very closely at your numbers, at your data. How many patients are you seeing? What is the average revenue per patient? What are the margins you're generating when you get the kickback from the insurance companies? If you look closely enough, you can get really granular on the percentages you're yielding per patient. And if you were to drop, you'd be yielding 100%. And these are margins to get granular at and look closely at your data. And looking closely at your data will highlight other aspects of your business that are always something to improve on.
Great. Thanks, Max. Awesome. So I think, got a few more questions here. Anonymous asks, for smaller independent practice, how much should I expect to spend per month on, say, Facebook ads or Google AdWords? Also, how important is it to build an email list?
Kevin should take that.
Okay, so it comes down to how much you want to grow. So we work backwards. So if you want to grow either a percentage or a dollar figure, then we look at what you want to spend on a percentage. So Whit talked about 2%. I can tell you, if you're looking to grow and you are a smaller independent practice and you are looking to grow, 2% is probably not going to cut it. So, let's use math here. So if you want to grow by $100,000 in revenue and a 10% marketing cost, which is about right when you're looking to grow, then $10,000 should get you there. So that's what, to keep your profit margins intact, that's what you should be looking at. If you're looking to aggressively grow, then probably a little bit more than that. But it's important to know that any dollars you put in, you are tracking how the return is coming back. So digital, among every other kind of option out there for marketing, really does provide that level of information. So you can find out what a phone call costs you and what a new patient costs you. And then you go into your patient management software and you can find out what that patient has brought to you in terms of revenue and kind of do your math backwards. So if a new patient's worth, at the end of the day, $300 on average, and you're looking at a 10% marketing cost, then you should be looking at targeting that person for about a $30 cost per acquisition. So it's hard to, I don't know your business, obviously, so I can't tell you what that number is. But what I can tell you is look at how much you spent on marketing in the last 12 months and what your sales are. And if you do everything the same, you're probably going to spend the same and kind of grow the same. So now look at the next level up. So if you're looking to grow by 100,000 or 200,000 or whatever that number is, then go a little bit more aggressive on the marketing and track the results. And how important is building an email list? It's important, I think, because it's important because it's a free service, more or less. So it's a way to communicate with your patients in between the appointments. And in a day where customer loyalty and consumer loyalty is at an all-time real low, people are looking at ways to increase that communication. Social media is a great way to do that. So is emailing. And don't over email, but it's a great way to send appointment reminders. It's a great way to ask for feedback once your appointment's completed. It's a great way to send a promotion, an actual dispensary promotion, a buy one, get one, or at the end of a benefits year to remind them to come in and use their benefits. So absolutely an email list is important, and keeping it up to date is also really important.
Great, thank you. You know, we actually have a hard stop at I guess it's 6 p.m. here on the West Coast. It'll be 9 p.m. for you guys. We'll try to get through as many of these questions as possible. So someone mentioned using digital coupons and sites like Groupon to get new patients. Has anyone had experience doing that? Or?
If you guys want, I don't know if you guys have done this, I can jump in on this one. Just from my experience in dealing with a lot of people that have tried this. It can go well. We'll put that caveat out there. Here's the problem. You are targeting a certain type of consumer. Someone that still is subscribing to Groupon is someone that will only use Groupons to make their purchase. So you're only going to be going after a particular type of person that probably is not going to come back without a coupon in their hand. That's a negative. The next negative is that Groupon takes a ton of money. So you think the vision plan is bad. Groupon will make you go 50% right off the bat. Then they take 50% of what's left. So if we just $100, they'll take the Groupon for 50, and Groupon takes 25 of that. So you're actually left at about a 25%, 75% discount off of your eye exam. So the only way it works is you have a very sound plan to upsell and to get them to come back over and over again, which if you look at history, Groupon consumers just don't do that. So I would strongly recommend staying away from Groupon and things like that unless someone else has experience otherwise. I have seen it actually bankrupt companies as opposed to actually help them. Not in this industry. There's industries where it can work, but definitely I've seen it go the other way.
One of the things we have done to successfully utilize that is we require them to book online, and we put our least desirable or often hard to fill spots. And every office probably has different parts of the day. They may be a little bit slower. So we restrict it to only certain times of the day where we may not have had a patient in there anyways.
That's smart. That's a good
Smart.
idea. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, I think that's the end of our webinar. No more questions. Again, thank you to all the panelists for joining and all the attendees. We really appreciate you taking part and hope you found it helpful. So yeah, thanks everyone. Really appreciate it.